Hello and welcome to another Lord of the Rings Rise to War 2.0 video. I am the player who plays as King Under the Mountain, and I started a new season 3 days ago now, so there's been a little gap. The first video I did was the first few hours of the production race, and as you can see we're doing okay for production at the moment, and I will show you exactly where we are in the rankings. So I was about 6th at the time, I think, when I left the last video, and I finished the first day around 6th or 7th, somewhere around the top 10. That was before I found what is now the revolutionary farming technique, which seems to be going around the community like wildfire at the moment, but I will introduce you to that in this video and show you how you can take, well, so far anything up to a 150 tile with very, very minimal losses with your commanders, particularly if you use damage commanders. And I'll also be telling you about the rise of the knights, which seem to be really popular for farming early season, as we've sort of discovered. So, fellowship wise, obviously we were Toby, we are now known as Dead, and Lame are currently top, Claw are second, who are also in Gondor with us, and there's a few others just below. So it looks like it could be an interesting season. Unfortunately, the first chapter did actually time out on this server, which was a little bit disappointing. So activity's perhaps not quite where people thought it might be. But in the same way, it's probably not too bad with everyone trying to get used to the new game. So, because I'm going to try and keep it vaguely brief today, I am going to instantly show you some tile reports while also walking to this tile to prove that this does work. So I am sending Dane to this tile, and as you can see there is not a lot of command in this army. And he's on a 1 minute 30 march. So just to prove this is real, at the moment, because of the way commanders now have health points, you can do things like this, which is the ways of farming. So this is a 150 power tile, which if you try and take it normally, can cause you quite a bit of grief actually at the moment, because the tiles themselves are actually a lot harder to take than what they used to be. So I'm running some good gear, really, for what it is. So yes, it's not matched at the moment, but unfortunately I didn't get the right sort of skill set on the equipment. So this will actually be my Scale Helm equipment when I eventually end on roleplay. There's Galadriel doing a full set, and Dane unfortunately doesn't have a full set, so he's just getting as much attack as possible in there, as I sort of spoke about in the previous video. So the interesting thing about this report is, as you can see, all the commanders have been hit and there's hardly any troops. So if we go into the breakdown, we've lost 3 tier 1 horses killing this 150 power tile, and 1 horse is heavily wounded, so we even get 1 back. And it's the commander damage that you're interested in. So because of the way that they've changed the HP system, so commanders now have HP, Dane in particular can actually deal a heavy amount of damage while not actually having any troops. Same as Bjorn, to be fair. Bjorn can get through quite a lot of damage, and Gala does okay, but they all get the experience from the hit, which is good. And I use a Gandalf, whether it be Gandalf the White or Gandalf the Grey, to mitigate the damage somewhat. So I don't use him in his focus damage build. I use him for White Council and for White Rider, because obviously we need to kill the army as fast as possible. White Council helps keep the commanders alive, which they need to stay alive to do the damage, and White Rider adds some damage on to help basically kill the army nice and early. So this farming technique, again, just to prove that it is real, we've literally just done a tile where we've lost those horses. None of the commanders have died, and that tile is now ours. So the trick I've found to also develop this method a little bit further is your commander HP goes back up quite quickly. So probably while we're on this video, I'll check on it and you'll see that these are all back to 100%. But I have a group in this formation here so that I can reinforce properly. So if I was just to reinforce now, all the tier 1 horses that I have in my barracks, which isn't actually a lot, it's only 1, would go straight onto this formation. So by doing what I'm about to do, you can leave them in the field and still get a full reinforcement of 1 horse on each commander. So we'll go on to Haldir, and it's actually in Faramir. So Faramir has my T1 horses. As you can see, we've got 1 horse there, and then we just adjust the slider so there's now 4 horses. And those 4 horses we then just reinforce, and each one of these will get 1 horse each, hence the +8, because horses count as 2 points in the health bar. And in 17 minutes time we'll be able to do the exact same thing again with very minimal losses. So I'm fairly sure this is not how they wanted the game to play out in 2.0 with Commander HP, but that's definitely a good use to have a higher amount of Commander HP, because you can sort of do that from quite early on. As you can see, we've been doing that for a while and it does work. When you do lose, which I'm sure I'll have a report here where I have actually lost. I was using Gimli and a few others for the same thing yesterday, and then following up with another formation, but we'll come on to that formation shortly. So we were using Gimli in the same way, and Gimli hasn't quite got the same amount of power. Eomer does okay, but this is kind of a second formation really at the time. They still do okay. They still, you know, for 4 losses we go in and take the tile straight afterwards, very minimally, with a knight combination on Imrahil. But it's something that does work consistently. It's very good to help you farm early on. I found that it's a lot harder this time round to get the resources right. So at the moment I'm running a lot of wood production because I spawned on the edge of Fangorn pretty much, and there is a lot of wood production in this area here, which was helpful to get me up and going, but not so helpful when I'm coming to build troops. The barracks is looking okay though, as you can imagine, because I'm not really expending any troops. I found tower guards to be quite good, and the difference between 150s to 200 power tiles has been quite outrageous. So we've gone from losing 4 horses on a 150, as you can see, and then we've been hitting some 200s. I will explain that one with Saruman shortly, because that was an experiment. So where is a 200? Here we go. So 200s are a lot more powerful. Dane's still doing most of the work. A similar sort of combination of people really, with Bjorn also chucking in some good damage. I'm actually really excited to be using Bjorn a lot more. He's got some pretty cool skills, as I sort of spoke about in a previous video. I've actually changed the build on him now, so I'm running full skin changer, just so I can try and protect my army a little bit better. The worst 200 defender I've found so far is actually Saruman, and it probably comes up with the fact that he's a lot better in 2.0 than 1.0. And this skill here of many colours is a pretty nasty skill. So every 2 rounds, so it'll happen on round 3, then round 6. He's dealing 380% focus damage to 1 enemy. On level 5, he's also dealing poison damage, and at level 10, he's also dealing burn damage. So that's 380% times 3 every 3 rounds. That's a really, really horrible skill to deal with. Also, Voice of Saruman, another great skill, and with the Madness skill as well, which is another reason why I changed Bjorn's skill. So if I ran into Saruman on a tile, I was a little bit better protected from Madness. So I'll just try and show you that just quickly with Bjorn. So with running full skin changer, as soon as he changes in round 4, you are stun and Madness immune in this formation. So that's good. So it just helps with a little bit of protection. Once I've got more points, I'll start going into Anduin Vale Chieftain, which is a great skill with bleed. I will come on to Bjorn a little bit more in a separate video, but I more wanted to talk about the sort of revolutionary method of farming. While I'm in here, I may as well just show you where I'm at with my ring points. So as always, I maxed out enormous power first, so we got more ability points for, well, at the moment, mocking, to be honest. but also for gathering. I have done powerful sweeping after experience because I think that plus 10% to PvE armies is pretty important at this stage. And I'm currently just upping my attack points just so I can take those armies out a little bit faster. And that was kind of really what I wanted to cover. I just wanted to cover the farming, but the other thing that we found in early season farming in the past, you kind of never really run cavalry, to be honest. But we've had some pretty impressive results this season with a cavalry compilation, which is actually something similar to this, but not quite the same. So Denethor, with his ally skill, so medium units in 3 allied formations have a 35% chance to recover 60% HP upon dealing physical damage. So when you mix this skill, and then it goes up to 50% at that, so you want to make sure you're maxing that skill out as fast as possible. So when you mix that skill, and I haven't done it in this one, with one of the Rohirrim skills, for example, which I will show you in a minute because this was just helping to finish off formation. Imrahil is actually better than Denethor with this skill because he has the ally skill tree, and he also has the Prince of Dol Amroth. So in 2 allied formations, they have a 75% chance of gaining attack plus 10 each round, which is pretty impressive, and that goes up to 75%. And then Madness and Stun Immunity, which is kind of part of his old skill tree, but he's definitely a person who's improved massively in 2.0. So just to show you how that sort of interacts, I'm hoping I've got a report down here somewhere where I was actually trying to take this properly. And you see there's a lot of reports going on, so let's have a look at this. Okay, this should work, I think. Yeah, so this cavalry formation, as you can see, is doing pretty well. Not too many losses. Appreciate the level's pretty good, but the gear's average. It's purples pretty much across the board. Apart from Ian, as I think, who's wearing my Dane gear, is trying to be a bit of a damage dealer. As you can see, he's done okay. And Gala's gear will be good actually because it's her gear set, so she's also doing pretty good damage. I've got Gandalf in the wizard build, so he's actually dealing some focus damage while also mitigating through White Council. And he's actually put out some good damage there, to be fair. It might be something that I look into more often, but basically mixing this ally skill. So remember, it's 3 allied formations have 35% chance to recover, so at this point, because it's past level 5, it's 50% chance of recovering 60% HP upon dealing physical damage. When you mix that with Theoden also has this skill, Aered Leader. After 3 allied formation mounted units deal damage, they have a 50% chance to deal an additional 15% damage. What you're looking for is increasing this to 75%. So it's basically every time they deal that damage, you get the heal on the back of it, and it's an extra proc of the heal. And that's what you're looking for. So healing's not been great in 2.0 at all, but as you can see in this, the healing's pretty good at 17k out of 28k. So that's a formation that people have been running to farm the proper way, shall we say, where if you wanted to take tiles with sort of normal levels of commanders and not just doing the physical damage, we're going to kill the tile off as fast as possible just using the commander, that is a great formation to try and sort of run that, and run Imrahil and a Gandalf if you can, with a damage dealer or a couple of damage dealers. And horses in 3 of the formations is probably better because then you at least get the proc properly, and then an infantry in the other one works pretty well. As you can see, that does work on lower level tiles as well. The more skill points you have, the better, obviously, but as soon as you can get ally up higher, it does help. But Denethor's okay, not quite the same. So just to show you that the commander HP has now pretty much fully recovered. So before I can reinforce, it's pretty much fully recovered. So it just goes to show you that that method does work really well. And that was really the main body of what I wanted to do. So it was sort of a brief update. Just to touch on where we're at with the season. We're not fighting or anything yet because it is only sort of day 3 and a bit really. But it was more just to sort of introduce people to that farming mechanism, which is ridiculously overpowered, and I'm sure it'll get a nerf at some point. But if you look at the kind of people who are up near the top of this, I am 100% confident that they all are using this farming method for taking 150s and 130s at this stage, and then sort of piggybacking on 200s, which are pretty, like I say, quite difficult. I did say I'd show one more report actually before I did anything else, and that was the one where I was experimenting here. So this 200 I took a lot of losses on, and it's mainly because I was experimenting, I believe, with trying to work out Dane, or was it not this one? No, I just took lots of losses on this one because of Saruman by the looks of things. Where was the one where I tried to experiment with Dane? It didn't go well anyway. Not sure, I'll have to try and dig it up for next time, that report. But basically, I tried to put very few troops on Dane, and he died just as he started the second fight, so I just didn't do enough damage, and then my army took an absolute wailing from the Tile army, which wasn't ideal, to say the least. But yeah, the farming method, I'm sure they'll have to leave it in the game for now, because they won't know how to counteract the commander HP issue. You don't even need to recall them to base. Like I say, if you use the sort of tip that I used on keeping your troops in another commander and just letting out 4 at a time, you can do it with infantry. I've been doing it with cavalry just for the simple reason that personally it's just a lot faster, and it just makes my life a little bit easier. But yeah, so that was pretty much it for a little update. I'll probably do another one tomorrow, hopefully, if I can get the time to do it. Any questions at all about that, just obviously drop me a comment or a message, or if you've used the farming build even, let me know. And as always, follow your nose.